The latest Orwellian tech revolution, or is it a brilliant new tool for fighting crime? Facial recognition, a hot topic again this week as the technology was rolled out at a Beyoncé concert in Cardiff.
Thousands of fans were scanned by police prior to the concert with the goal to identify people wanted for priority offences.
The technology was also recently used during the King's coronation and has been heavily criticised by human rights campaigners.
Joining us now is Madeleine Stone, Legal and Policy Officer of the Big Brother Watch. Madeleine, thank you for joining us. How are my freedoms negatively impacted by retailers having facial recognition technology to help them root out shoplifters?
Well, this is a really intrusive technology. I mean, basically, it's the equivalent of private companies who are using this or police officers asking you to scan your fingerprint when you walk into a shop or walk down the street. Basically turns our faces into walking barcodes, and it really reconfigures the power between either the police and the public, or a customer and a shop. I mean, it's totally disproportionate. It's the kind of technology that you see being used in China and Russia. It's not the sort of thing that belongs in a democracy like Britain.
But I still don't understand how it's negatively impacting my freedom when for a shop to try and root out shoplifters. In fact, if it's probably helping to make the streets safer, it's probably making sure that the prices in the shops are cheaper because there's nobody there shoplifting. I rather quite like the idea that the security services can intercept a terrorist. I don't really think that they're interested in me walking down the street. They're using it for a particular purpose, and that's what the High Court found, wasn't it? That actually it had a negligible impact on people who weren't the target because it wasn't being used for that purpose, but it was a very useful tool for helping pick out undesirable people.
Well, the court actually found that the way it had been used was unlawful because police hadn't fully taken account equalities law, data protection law. They didn't have in place the right policies. So actually the court ruled against the use of facial recognition. But I think more generally, targeted surveillance is far more useful. And ultimately, this actually isn't a very useful tool. We're not talking about, a fantastic brilliant crime fighting tool versus privacy and freedom on the other side, which of course is important. This actually isn't very useful. The Met's own figures and South Wales Police's own figures show that this tool is over 85% inaccurate. So 85% of people who are stopped by this technology are actually wrongly flagged. It doesn't really work that well. And millions of pounds have been spent by police forces, by the government on this technology over the course of about 7 or 8 years now, and it's resulted in a handful of arrests. This kind of policing resources money can be spent far better.
Madeleine, your figures on that about the inaccuracy, that was based on a sample of 173 people back in 2019. The technology's moved on massively since then, and the Face Watch technology claims to be 99.5% accurate. You're using out-of-date information on a very small sample, aren't you? The thing is, you're quite extremist at Big Brother Watch, aren't you? You don't even like CCTV cameras down the street, do you, really? You just don't like any of this technology, which is designed to help people stay safe.
CCTV absolutely has a place in modern Britain, and we're not against CCTV. What we're against is disproportionate, really intrusive AI-powered CCTV that takes us a step closer to a Big Brother society like China. A lot of the cameras that are being used nowadays, they're not just passively filming us. They have microphones, they have behavioural analysis, object analysis, gender detection, emotion recognition. We are really entering a whole new era of surveillance now. And a lot of these tools, of course, they're really intrusive and can be used to track us in ways like we wouldn't even believe. But as I've said, they're really inaccurate. And I do have to say, those figures are not from 2019. Those figures are from all of the deployments from the Met since they started using facial recognition. So those include the figures from the coronation as well. So this is all of the numbers of all of the people who've ever been flagged by the police using facial recognition.
So, Madeleine, I'm slightly more on your side of the argument here about surveillance. I'm slightly more cautious about that. Philip thinks it adds to your freedoms. I'm cautious about who's got it. So I understand your fear. But I'm going to say we know levels of violence against people like shop workers, frontline staff, has gone through the roof. Could this system of facial recognition help protect those frontline workers?
I don't think so, because as I've said, this technology is really inaccurate. And the way that it's actually being used by shops, there's no actual criminal threshold here. And I think that's really important. It's not, we kind of envision maybe the most violent people who've been convicted of crimes are being put on these shops' watch lists. That's not the case at all. Shop workers can put pretty much anyone they want on a watch list for pretty much any reason. So you could find yourself wrongly blacklisted by a staff member who, doesn't like you or thinks you might have been acting a bit suspiciously.
Well,
of
that's
course,
the
this
fair
could fall
point.
hardest on people with mental health
problems. You could be
problems.
blacklisted. Things could be wrong. Madeleine, I want to thank you very much indeed. We've now going to be joined by somebody who's got a slightly different point of view on this. Phil.
Yeah, we're joined by the founder of FaceWatch, Simon Gordon. Simon, thank you very much for joining us. You probably heard what Madeleine had to say about facial recognition. I mean, why are facial recognition cameras so important to you and to other businesses and retailers?
Well, violence is a massive issue for retailers, and that's why I launched it. I have my own business, and we had a lot of theft from our customers. Mine's a wine bar. We had a lot of theft from customers, a lot of very upset people. And I just got fed up with the fact that we were completely powerless, and they just came back again and again. And violence is a level of 850 incidents a day against staff. And in the USDAW survey, over 7 out of 10 in the last year have reported verbal abuse. 49% received threats of violence, and 8% were actually physically assaulted. And the retailers are desperate to try and help their staff, because what other job do you get that level of violence against you? I'm sure there are a few, but not very many.
Do you understand, Simon, any of the concerns that people have about civil liberties, about the fact that even though even some people might say, well, it might be used for something, genuine and useful now, but it could be used for things that we might not want it to be used for further down the line? Do you understand and sympathise with any of those concerns about the technology?
Oh, absolutely. We've built FaceWatch to be completely transparent. Everything we've done, we publish on our website. We tell people exactly what's going on. And every shop that you go into that uses FaceWatch has an A5 sign as you walk in telling you that it's there. Now, if people weren't supportive of it, why do they carry on shopping? It's made absolutely no difference, even with a lot of negative publicity, for example, against the Southern Co-op of claims from people like Big Brother Watch, and everyone was supportive. That their customers, they got a lot of support from it. They didn't have any real negativity at all.
Now, I guess my concern would be, and where does all that data go? Who holds it? Do you hold it as a private company? Does government hold it? Who has it? And can it be sold on?
No, absolutely not. This is the frustrating thing that people don't quite understand. I mean, there is a very strict law in the UK. The UK Data Protection Act incorporates GDPR. So if you walk in front of a camera in a FaceWatch store, and same with the police systems, we don't keep any biometric data. It's just like CCTV. We very quickly carry out, within 1 second, it compares your face using a biometric template to a database of subjects of interest who have stolen from the store or stores in the area before, and then it just sends an alert to the store if you're on that. If you don't, the biometric data is deleted within a fraction of a second. There is no database. We don't know who you are. We never know where you go. It's completely illegal under the Data Protection Act to track people. Totally illegal.
Well, thank you for clearing that up for me, Simon. I wasn't sure what happened there.
Just finally, Simon, I suppose that Big Brother Watch said there's a lot of inaccuracy in these images. I suppose the proof of the pudding for the retailers is there any evidence that this is actually reducing the levels of shoplifting in stores or reducing the level of assaults on shop workers? Is there any evidence to suggest it does actually work?
There is massive evidence. Every single one of our customers says the same thing, that their staff are safer, it reduces crime. The co-ops just published figures, for example, where FaceWatch is deployed. They've got it in 35 stores out of 240. It's a 1% increase in crime, which initially we thought, oh my goodness, there's an increase in crime in FaceWatch stores. but the other 200 had a 44% increase. Now, they use everything else exactly the same, security guards in certain places, etc. And there was a 17% decrease in threats and violence against their staff in FaceWatch stores and a 16% increase where it's not. And
Simon Gordon, thank you very much indeed for joining us today. That's been, well, an insight for me, quite a revelation.